Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's all right. Okay, here. I'm gonna bring this here. Going to get this closer too. Plug the ATS 25 WWV. So I'm just gonna mute that. 25 megahertz coming in really well. WWV right now. So here we go. Here we go. Let's check that here. Open a chat here. And there we go. So welcome aboard. This is the Saturday live show where we talk about radio. Welcome to the Shortwave show. This is a show every Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. Remember that next week, the show is going to be at 20 hours Universal Time. That also means that if you change your clocks, it'll be an hour earlier than usual for you because UTC never changes, but your reference or the difference you have from UTC will be different because of the time change. So that's coming up tonight. And actually, I want to talk about a DX test that's going to be happening on AM tonight. So if you guys are either in the area where that's going to happen or in the East Coast, it's a little late. It's 2 a.m., but it's going to be interesting to check it out. It's 6:06 hours Universal Time. So that's going to be a medium wave AM DX test. That's going to happen on 1150 kilohertz. And I'll be checking that out. There was one yesterday on 880, but that one I had to wake up early, so I didn't stay up for it. But also 880 kilohertz here is WCBS New York. That's just booming in, so it's kind of a hard one for any tests when that station's on. So my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we are, of course, here to entertain and have fun with radio. Hope that you enjoy and that you enjoy listening and having fun with radio with all of us too here on the channel. And it's always fun to be here. It's a very hot day for November the 5th in Montreal. It's right now outdoors 22 Celsius, 21 Celsius, basically. So we're in the 70s, and which is, I believe, a record for today. And it's been beautiful all week. I mean, we've had temperatures in the 60s all week, the 70s today, 70 tomorrow also. But then things change, and we're going to go back down to really colder temperatures. Well, cold is very relative because it's going to be just normal temperatures, basically. And, it's going to be in the 40s rather than in the 70s. Which is colder, but then again, not that cold especially for us here in Montreal. So, anyways, really enjoying the hot weather. So, basically, we talk about radio and we have fun sharing about radio. And of course, there's a chat room while we do the show, and there's a lot of great people here if you want to join in and have fun. I think it's a great place for anyone that loves radio and that shares that radio bug and passion that we all have here. And there's the Facebook group. When this is over, you can head on to the Facebook group, and lots of people sharing. Facebook group is very active, and that I really love the fact that a lot of people are sharing, a lot of people are posting, lots of activity there, and it's really a nice big group of friendship and just fun. With the radio, basically. So really cool to be here and to offer all of that to you guys. And of course, it's fun to be here also to do a live show. We've got a few things to talk about, a few questions also, and we're going to be taking a look at all of that today. So welcome aboard, Matt, MDK2. Nice to have you on board. And says it's very fall-like Denver. Here it's more like a summer Montreal. Master Players Radio and Television Plus Gaming, WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana. Nice to have you here, Bobby. Artist Out Crafter's Kitchen, nice to have you on board from a warm Massachusetts. And wishing daylight savings time soon becomes one thing of the past. Rob, nice to have you on board from Phoenix, Arizona. We have Richard. Nice to have you on board. It's interesting to see that it's 62 Fahrenheit in Phoenix, Arizona, way down south. And it's about 70 to mid 70s in Montreal, up north. Kind of crazy weather patterns. Richard Wagner, nice to have you here from rainy Northeast Illinois. We have Aldo. Nice to have you on board. Nice to have you here. Video Radio, Paul, nice to have you here. AA1SU from the Essex Junction, Vermont. Aldo says, is that a meow filter in the mic for the photo? Yes, it is. What else do we have? Yeah, the pop-up filters, they're great in general. And the one that I have on the picture there came actually with the Maono microphone that's in the back here, the black microphone. It actually was included in the box, which is nice. What else do we have? I think Collins Tube's receivers are pretty much all pretty good. I haven't heard of bad ones. What else do we have? Randall, nice to have you here. We have what do we have? So Aldo uses an R75. I use a variety of radio, but if I would say I'm pretty much more in the SDR today. So I'll use my SDR Play, RSPDX, or the AirSpy HF Plus. And of course, I've been playing a lot with my new toy, the Yaesu FT-DX10, which I absolutely love. So these are right now my favorites, but I love the Texans, the Texan H501X, PL990, for radios that are cheaper priced or decently priced. Let's call it like that. I don't like to use the word cheap because it's not actually cheap. The Texan PL 330 is decently priced and in excellent performer. It's really good. So there's a lot of radios I use over time, and I try to kind of do a kind of go around all the radios, and I thought I'd do another round of different radios this week and showing you guys what I think and what I love and what I don't love about some. And I do need to do more videos of hands-on operations with everyone. I know that you guys love these videos too, so now that time is a little more available for me, I will get on it and try to make as many videos for all of that this week also at the same time. And for those that want to, there will be more videos coming up with the FTDX10, also tuning the band, stuff like that. Danny Shortwave and Radio DX, the guy that seems to be live all the time because every time I post a video or do something, he's live. Nice to have you here. And I hope you're enjoying those live shows. And why not, guys, join Danny Shortwave Radio DX. Check out what he has to say. And, it's fun to have different viewpoints, different streamers, different people talking about radio. What else? TVDXer, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. We have Dwayne. Nice to have you here from Northeast Tennessee. We have our friend here, Jorhader. I don't know how to pronounce it, but from Germany. Nice to have you here, my friend. Ricky, nice to have you here from Calgary. Hope you're well. PLF Radio, bonjour et bienvenue depuis Lyon en France. J'espère que tu vas bien et que tout se passe bien là-bas. Ici, c'est l'été aujourd'hui pour quelques jours, mais je crois que il faut faire attention. En mois de novembre, ici à Montréal, c'est l'été pendant 2 jours et après, on a 30 cm de neige une semaine plus tard. C'est souvent le cas. Bienvenue. Nice to have you here from France. RJDA Dakota from Wentzville, Missouri. Nice to have you here. We have Rob. Nice to have you here. Jeff King from Jacksonville, Florida. Nice to have you on board. Jim's Radio Check. Nice to have you here. Says very windy city. There's wires hanging all over the backyards. I don't know which ones are internet or electric. I may disappear at any given moment. AE1TP. Nice to have you here from Bulgaria. Tom, nice to have you on board. Kevin, nice to have you here. Lyndon Price, nice to have you here from San Diego. We have Ash Move or whatever. 73, nice to have you here. Ron C, nice to have you here from Saint Hubert. Love my DX radio. What else do we have? Kevin, nice to have you here from the Jersey Shore, WS2H, and enjoying climate change on a sunny day. What else do we have? John in Finland, nice to have you here, my friend. We have Ima Twat, nice to have you on board. MDK2, Matt says it got 881 kilohertz pretty well, but it was a typical talk radio station, so I didn't listen for long. Greg, nice to have you on board, and nice to be your best friend. What else do we have? VA3JPX, nice to have you on board, my friend. Davis Radio Room, nice to have you here. We have Aldo says, bonjour to you in Quebec. Have all the leaves dropped? Pretty much. I don't think there's much left. The only ones that are left are the ones that usually hang on, like, apple trees. I always found kind of funny to see the apple trees that keep their leaves until, sometimes it's snowing and they have the snow on the leaves before they actually do fall. But for the most part, leaves are gone. I could have almost done the show outside today since it's so beautiful. Stephen Wood, nice to have you here. Warm up here in Cape Cod. So I guess all the East Coast is warm today. Even here in Montreal, very summer-like. DJW883 from Southeast Pennsylvania. We have WHOA220. Nice to have you here. Ricky says, was chatting with my family in Montreal earlier. They were amazed and a little shocked how warm it's today. Windy and snowy over here naturally. Yeah, I see all the posts of snow and cold weather that you guys are having there in Alberta. It's like crazy. Pila Fredzio, Adish Manar Ramkinson, nice to have you here from Trinidad and the Caribbean. Cool to have some Caribbean viewers. Pila Fredzio was 12 this afternoon. Now it's around 6, colder than here in Montreal. Yeah, see that. Danny Shortwave, time to fix up your outdoor antennas before the cold weather settles in. Yes, definitely. Actually, I was thinking tomorrow, Sunday, to go and examine my V-shape antenna for my ham radio gear in the backyard. Make sure that it's going to withstand the winter, because once it sets in and the cold sets in, I can still go outside and play with it, but it's not as fun, and it's kind of hard, especially when it's really cold. It's kind of difficult to manipulate, tools and stuff. And I'm also going to take a look at my MLA30, make sure that it's ready for what? Maybe I think it's its 4th winter now. That thing is rough and tough. Same MLA30 outdoor for the past 3 to 4 years, at least 4 years, maybe. This is, if not more. And still going strong. But definitely before the bad weather settles in, it's time to check it out and make sure everything's set up. That especially in the winter storms here, when our winter storms when you have a lot of wind, snow, winter storms can be quite heavy, and the wet snow sometimes, and mostly what scares the most anybody that has antennas, ice storms, because that makes the ice accumulate on the wires. So kind of interesting to make sure that it's all solid. Jen, our friend in Finland, says Finnish only. Private shortwave station Scandinavian Weekend Radio is on the air today. Currently 6170 and 11720. So if you guys want to try that, 6170, 11720. I'm going to try 11720 just out of curiosity. I have never heard that station. I know it's low power. Typically, nothing here. Not even a, yeah, maybe a weak carrier. Well, actually, something came up and now it's off. Maybe some really weak carrier, but unfortunately, never heard that. Are you guys in Europe hearing it? Scandinavian Weekend Radio, which is, I believe, it's the first weekend of the month or something. So it's today and before next month, I believe. So thanks for letting us know that it's live right now. Our friend Jen in Finland. So if you guys want to try it, especially on probably in Europe, Scandinavian Weekend Radio is on the air right now on 6170 and 11720. Vincent Cooper, nice to have you here. DB Ostrowski, nice to have you on board. And from a very blustery winter weather we are having here in southwest Alberta. Yep, winter is here. Wish I was in Montreal wearing shorts rather than down jackets. Yeah, I get the feel. That's the thing I hate the most in the winter is having a jacket, especially when you go out and start, you go shopping or you go somewhere. And now you have that jacket to, you know, if of course you go inside, it's too hot. So you take off your jacket, but you gotta hang on to it. It's kind of one of those annoying things of winter. Um, I used to go downtown. There's one of the big malls downtown had a place where you can leave your coat, and it didn't cost much. It was like something like $2 plus the tip for the person that's there. So it's like when I knew I would go downtown and I would be on the underground because here we have a lot of stuff in the underground city of Montreal. In the winter, you can go shopping, you can do your groceries, you can do everything without ever going outside when you're downtown. And so sometimes I knew that I was going to stay probably indoors downtown everywhere, go to different stores, and I would just leave my coat there, spend the day there, eat at the restaurants, and come back, which was kind of fun. At least you don't have to worry about that coat. The PBRSDG, nice to have you here from the warm northern Green Mountains of New York. Nice to have you here. Paul Turk, nice to have you on board. Windy, rainy in southwest Michigan. This is probably what's going to happen here tomorrow. I think it's a cold front coming. It's going to be colder after that. Dave, nice to have you here from the Bronx, New York. MDK2 rare, getting WWV 20 megahertz in Denver. Usually the skip zone's too big. It's very fringy reception, though, barely there. Michael, nice to have you on board, signing in from northern New Jersey, raking leaves, raking shortwave. Hello to everyone. Matt says, cool, hearing it on 20 megahertz, 5 megahertz too, even better than 20. Wow, that's cool. You being so close, it's kind of interesting. PLF Radio, like my videos about the antennas. Cool, thank you so much. Francis Moore, nice to have you here. Tim Francisco, nice to have you on board. Says, looking for more info about the Ratty RF760. When will it be available? And is it a decent radio? Yeah, that thing is. I'm just gonna make sure that I don't mess it up with something else. Ratty RF760. Isn't that the? I'm just gonna check it out. Isn't that the same thing as the? Yeah, that's the same thing as the. the crappy receiver, the Anrongda. So first of all, it's already out. That radio's already out, and it's really not worth the price. It is, you know, on shortwave, it's fairly decent for the international broadcasts. The single sideband has this such a weird tuning that it's like the most annoying thing you ever had in your hands to tune single sideband. And basically it's it's performance because of the bandwidths and everything. And if you live in a city like me where there's a lot of strong VHF UHF signals, that thing becomes totally deaf, doesn't hear a thing at all. And the bandwidths are just bad chosen on the VHF UHF FM mode. It's really not worth the money at all. Yeah, inexpensive is not necessarily cheap. Absolutely, RGD Dakota. Mark, we had a power outage in our neighborhood last night. I could not believe how many stations I could pick up with clarity, having the usual noise as eliminated. That is the biggest problem. When somebody tells me there's nothing on shortwave, I always reply, yeah, it's because of the noise floor. Because once that noise floor disappears, you notice that the bands are full of signals. But the problem is, since we are not target area anymore in North America, particularly, a lot of them are just washed out in the noise floor. If it wasn't for the noise, when I go to the park, if it wasn't for the noise, BBC would be an easy all day listen. Almost all of their frequencies are coming in well enough to enjoy programs and listen in. You come back home and it's like, yeah, no more BBC. It's just the noise and something in the noise, which is sad. Although 11810 and 12095 are not too bad lately. But yeah, that shows you that the problem we have is simple. It's noise. Noise is killing our hobby more than anything else. Every time somebody pops up and says the internet's killing the hobby, it's on the contrary. The internet is not only not killing the hobby, it has so much resource to help us that it's actually helping us enjoy it even more. It's really the noise floor that's the problem. Not the internet. Mark W., nice to have you here from Vancouver. Glenn, nice to have you here from South Carolina, 79 degrees. Peter Frazio, remember you did a tour of all your radios a long time ago. Yeah, maybe that could be something to do again, for sure. Danny Shortwave, yeah, well, that's the spirit, having fun and check it out. And like I said, if anybody wants to join in some other live shows, Danny Shortwave and Radio DX, go check it out. I'm sure that you will enjoy yourself there. Artist Outcrafter's Kitchen says, I've enjoyed the videos on their Yaesu transceiver. It's too bad they don't offer something like an optional filter for broadcast listening. Yeah, it's, the biggest problem is more of why didn't they let the SDR stage give you a filter option that can be chosen in the AM mode on the international broadcast bands. At least they could have done that. It's an SDR after all. It's an hybrid radio, has an SDR part to it. Could have done that. They also could have, like, why didn't they give us the option like in single sideband? In single sideband, you actually have a option of playing around with those filters. AM, nope. You're stuck with what you got. Like, okay. And it's a problem because to give you an idea, I tried listening to, what was it I was listening to? I listened to something on a 49 meter band, and it was like real close to another station. And the other station was interfering because the filter was too wide. And if it wasn't for that, I used, so yeah, okay, it works. I used lower sideband on the AM signal, and the interference went away. It's just that when you're in the international broadcast band, you don't want to Um, you don't want to, have to go to the trouble of doing upper or lower sideband on the signal because of, interference or something. But, it's a way to deal with it. And once again, I think it shows that whoever designed this transceiver it's clearly designed and aimed at the amateur radio operator. And you guys here are probably different from a lot of hams. Some of you are, because there's a lot of hams here. The hams that are coming here are probably the hybrid. I call them the hybrid type, the ones that not just do ham radio but also listen in on international broadcasts or will try utilities and stuff. But when I look at the ham guys in general, most ham operators are never going to leave or never leave the amateur bands and do not go and listen into anything else. So, they're happy. They're everything is okay. John, nice to have you here. K7XRT in Tucson, Arizona. Yeah, inexpensive is the PL330. I think, it's not difficult, but the PL330, Texan PL330 is definitely the best bang for the buck that you can get for a shortwave radio. If there is one radio to get that is truly on shortwave amazing with all of its features, that Texan PL330. I mean, for the price, you got something that's amazing. Fred Waterer, nice to have you here. Jesse, nice to have you here. Philip, nice to have you on board. G0PVK in the UK. Nice to have you on board. Johnny Sorrentino, nice to have you on board. Thanks for the videos during the week from New York City. Yep, I'm gonna ramp up the videos now because since I have a little more time, I can make a little more videos. So I will have more videos. Fred, 23 Celsius in Niagara. Well, it's about 21, 22 here in Montreal. So what else do we have? Guido Manfredini, nice to have you on board from Turin, Italy. We have, try to catch up here. Try to catch up a little more. What else do we have? Jim's radio check. I got to say the MLA30 is damage free through all that wind. Well, what plays in favor of it a lot is if you kept the thin metal loop, it will, wiggle with the wind, but it has very little friction. So pretty much is okay. 103 Wim, nice to have you on board from the Netherlands. Christian Marcoux, salut. Nice to have you here from North Bay, Ontario. Kevin has moved to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Nice to have you back. Esteban, nice to have you here from the Canary Islands. Pedro, nice to have you on board from Marbella, Spain. Robert Somerville, nice to have you here from Calgary. Jess Dumb, nice to have you here. Got lost on YouTube. Gary24 fan, nice to have you on board from sunny and summer-like northern Maine. Record high of 72 Fahrenheit, pretty much the same here. Meta Lunar, nice to have you on board. We have Larry Gilmore, nice to have you on board. Glad to see you be back again to make a move. Wow, what a job that it was mobile as well with everyone. What else do we have? Family back. So nice to have you here. Yeah. David's Radio Room. Can you put an MLA30 on a metal pole? Well, like I said, it's technically it's probably going to interact, but I've seen some people do it and seem to say that it works fine. Dwayne, there were tons of pirates last weekend. Not as many maybe on Halloween night. Monday. But the night before Halloween, that Sunday night, the 30th of October, man, the amount of pirates over there is crazy. Binta Learner, how do you decide whether you are going to listen with your V-shaped wire antenna versus the MLE30? Do you just try both out and see what you get, or do you have a reason to use one or the other? Since the radios are not in the same room, and that the only the V-shaped antenna is not on a multi-coupler or anything. Right now, the only reason I use it is because I use it with the Yaesu FT DX10 transceiver. So you can say that technically it's mostly used for my ham radio side. So when I want to operate on the ham bands, that's when I'm using that antenna. Just want to check something here. 9855. Yeah. It's back there this year. NHK, Radio Japan, and French 9855 coming in quite well here from the Madagascar relay. So nice to see NHK using that frequency again. So, anyways, that is so 9855 kilohertz NHK Radio Japan in French. If you guys want to try it, if you understand French, particularly, it's nice to listen. It's the winter. That's the winter frequency I love because it's easy to hear in Montreal from the Madagascar relay. 2030. It's 2030 to 21 UTC. So like I said, the V-shaped antenna is mostly used for just a transceiver, because I have to unplug it from the transceiver to plug it to something else. Plus, I need to have adapters because it's it's a PL259 plug and all of that. So the trouble of taking the time to adapt it for some other radio or something is not pleasant, and it's not something I'm probably going to do much. So it's mostly for the ham stuff. Now, that said, you guys probably remember I said that there's a video I posted this week where there are differences between both antennas. That antenna, that V-shaped antenna, does work better on certain frequencies than my MLA30. And there are signals that I hear on it that I barely hear on the MLA30. And of course, the other way around is also true. There are frequencies where the MLA30 gives me signals that I don't hear on the V-shape. But honestly, that difference, when I get the difference when I hear it better on the V-shaped antenna, it's really because of the length of the antenna that helps bring in more signal, and that frequency has a lower noise floor than a lot of the rest of the band. Because to be fair, when I hear something better on the MLE30, I could see that it's received as well, if not better, on the V antenna. The problem is that the positioning of that antenna means that there's more interference also. So basically what happens is it's a signal to noise ratio when my MLE30 brings me a better signal to noise ratio on that signal when it's better. Eduardo, nice to have you here from Brazil. Jesus Tierro, nice to have you here from Venezuela. Nice to have you on board. Just contacted Venezuela on the ham bands last week. Was happy to make my first contact there. Neil Rigby, nice to have you here from the UK. Joseph, nice to have you here, San Francisco Bay, California. David's Radio Room was able to get 3 pirates. Carlos Aguila, nice to have you here from Mexico, 27 Celsius. And says he was in Salt Lake a few days ago, 3 Celsius. Ouch. Big difference, eh? RJDA Dakota says, heard a lot of pirates this year, at least 9 or 10. Stephen Wood, nice to have you here. No signal from the Scandinavian Weekend Radio in Massachusetts. All in their radio is blasting on 9620. MDK2 says, last week I left my hoodie where I got my chair my haircut and had to go back for it. I hate it when it's too warm inside and keep wearing one, but you need it outdoors because it's likely to forget it. Yeah. Yeah. Uncle Justin, nice to have you here. KB2RMC, New York State. Raymond Martin, Place Ville-Marie. No, there's it's in the Eaton Center that they have the coat check. I don't know if they still have it though. I haven't gone in a while, but it's not far from there. It's just you just cross. But it's the coat check was at the Eaton Center. The Win 1960, nice to have you here. Carlisle Forrester, nice to have you here from Florida. We have Art Dodd from New Jersey, a K280C. Paul says 9620, All India Radio, good signal. Let's check that out. 9620. It's interesting. I've got pretty much nothing here. 9620. Wow. Eduardo says your video saved me from buying a Honda HRD 747. Hope so, because it's not worth it. I tell you that's true. I really got into shortwave mainly because of what I learned on the internet. Robert Cross, nice to have you on board. J. Dakota says the internet actually complements my shortwave radio hobby by helping me look up stations and where I am at, as well as how to listen. Enough of internet killed the radio. Yep. Same here. And I mean, look, we have this live show. Also that is basically another thing that you can join in and have fun. So basically, the internet does totally complement. Jan says Scandinavian Weekend Radio from 20 to 21 UTC. You can try 5980, 6170, and 11720, and 23 to 24 UTC, 6170 and 11690. Yeah, they are only 100 watts, so that makes it a really good DX here in North America. I've tried for it several times, but never heard it. PLF Radio, do you know a radio called TEF 6686? That's interesting. TEF 6686. Let me check that out. TEF 6686. Let me check that out. Oh, look at that. You know what that looks like? So how much is that? 167 Canadian dollars. That looks like almost like it's kind of cute. It has its own speakers in the front. It's interesting because it seems to have several different. Oh, there's different versions of the TEF 6616, and it looks like a. It looks like one of those Chinese-made Malahite clones, but with the speakers at the bottom. Looks interesting. If you guys want to check it out, check TEF 6686. Full band radio, dual speaker, stereo, medium wave, and shortwave with lithium battery. Canadian, it would come up to about $190, which is a little too expensive, but looks kind of cute. Official VA3 DLO, nice to have you here. Doing well. Glenn, what's your main radio that you use today? Is it still the ICOM R8500? My ICOM 8500 is and in my Kenwood R5000 are not used. I have moved on to SDRs. When I turn on a radio at home, want to listen, it's an SDR. I prefer using an SDR. The flexibility and all that it brings is much more interesting for me. Um, I haven't turned on the ICOM and the Kenwood in a long time, and actually, I know you guys would like to see me probably make some videos out of them again. So I'm going to plug them in and use them a little, but honestly, they're not being used anymore, pretty much. And it's mostly because the SDRs took over. Because if SDRs would not exist, at home listening, I'd probably be using either the ICOM or the Kenwood for my listening. And my portables would be more of a portable radio that I used either when I want to move around the house or if I go outside somewhere else, basically. Larry, you just purchased a RadioWow 108. You're going to have fun. It's a great little radio. And it's definitely a decent radio for the price. Francis Moore, hope your internet is better now. What else do we have? Larry Mastel, new ham operator. Well, welcome to the world of amateur radio, man. Welcome to the world of amateur radio. Pretty cool. That is nice. That is nice. David's Radio Room says the hams who never leave the ham bands miss a lot. They do. Definitely do. Official VA3DLO says all bands are amazing. Definitely. John Crawford from Northern Ireland. Nice to have you here. Stephen Wood says work ham contest in DX, but also listen to short and medium wave, well-rounded. Yeah, I think it is something that is, I mean, if you're really interested in radio in general, you're interested in, my radio interest is all around, is everywhere. My radio interest is, I've over the years, I went, I got into the scanner craze of the 80s. I got into all sorts of things that I find fascinating and interesting. And I think anyone that is really a radio geek and loves the radio, loves all aspects of it. But sadly, there's a lot of hams that aren't at all interested in anything else. Just by the type of comments I've got on my shortwave channel here, when I post videos of receiving with the Yaesu FTDX10, it's almost as if I'm like doing something wrong. The number of comments of, well, you should get your ham license and use that radio for what it's supposed to do. Almost as if, well, listening to those stations is not don't stop doing that. You need to use that as a ham transceiver. Hey, I know what I'm doing. It's like, there was, I don't know who posted that comment. I found it so funny because there was one guy saying something about, that radio can transmit also. And somebody posted the first comment that was posted was one of you guys. And it said, I think he knows what that radio can do. I was like, yeah. But I don't know. For some hams, it's almost as if it's a waste to use the FTDX10 only for listening. And honestly, if somebody would have an FTDX10 and not have a ham license and only use it to listen, yeah, there is a transmitter in there, but I don't think it's a wasted use of a radio. It still makes a decent receiver. I don't get that. I don't get that mindset of, oh, you got to use that for what it has, it's capable of. It's like, it's capable of receiving. It is a radio after all, it's just that. Um, Nut, first time. Nice to have you on board, my friend from Wisconsin. Um, V3DLO is done in Ontario, Canada. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let me just check it out. Oh, it's going well. The weather station is pretty good. The problem with the weather station is it's extremely sensitive to RF. Even though it's in a room here, I had to move it. It actually has so it's so sensitive to RF that its settings change if I transmit with the transceiver, and I'm on the other side of the house with it. But it seems like the RF signal level inside the house here is strong enough that it actually makes the weather station go crazy. And I noticed it doesn't take much. At first, I was like, "Wow, that's weird," but I noticed that if I use my Bearcat um, 980 SSB CB rig, and I'm not too far away, it actually goes. The weather station goes crazy. I would say that is the negative of it for somebody that's radio oriented but transmits. But for the rest, love it. It's great. Chris, is it safe keeping a wire antenna permanently set up outside? Your wire will never be struck by lightning. First of all, that will never happen. You know what? People that have problems with lightning strike, most of the hams that did, usually 99% the strike didn't even hit directly. It hit close, and that even if you don't have a wire outdoors, you're going to see the effect of that on everything in your home. And the other thing is for the ones that is a direct strike. They had big towers, so they were kind of attracting it. A wire a wire antenna does not attract lightning or anything. You don't have to worry about it. The only thing that you should follow as a rule is to simply disconnect the wire from your radio when you're not using it. For the rest, don't worry. You're never going to have problems with that. I had wires outdoors for 40 years. Nothing ever happened. And if a lightning strike is close enough for something to happen, it ain't the wire that's going to be the problem. I can tell you that. NDK2, the whole weekend was busy. I logged all over 40 pirate broadcasts Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Got band recordings too. Yeah. I forgot to do that. One of the things that I did, because I did some ham radio, I mixed my pirate listening with also tuning around the ham bands. And I was doing it on the FTDX10. But I forgot. The FTDX10 has a very neat feature, which is I can record what I'm listening to. So when I hear pirates, I should actually make recordings on the SD card. It's great. And from time to time, I should transfer that on my PC. So this is a cool feature, by the way, of the FTDX10. You just put your, I got a 16 gigabyte SD card in the radio, and I just record everything that I want to record when I listen in. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to be able to record everything as it's happening. And then when you go into radio, it's cool also because you have all of these. It has the information. So when you go through the recordings, not only do you have the time and the date, you also have the frequency and the mode of your recording, which is nice because it's like, oh, okay, that must be. First, it gives you a hint because, if, for example, I went through the list, it was like 7375 0 UTC. Oh, that was, I made a recording of Radio Romania because 7375, the time and all, I just understood that was it. But also because I know my frequencies by heart a lot. There's one that I looked at is like, 5616. I was recording some aeronautical communications, but I totally forgot to record pirates, which would have been a good idea, I think. And I like it because I want to try to record as much as possible from now on with that radio, because I feel that it's going forward. Maybe that those recordings could be part of something eventually, or maybe the online, archives of audio, radio archives, stuff like that. So I thought, well, it's time or never to record as much as possible of everything you're listening to. And that could be useful for somebody somewhere. Um, Larry, okay. Joseph, what's the best handheld radio to just sit there and let auto scan the bands? I like to just leave it scanning in the background with other activities. Well, one of the best in its and in its low price um, for that type of thing is the Texan PL330. It's pretty good for that. And almost any portable receiver that is made by Texan with the ETM scan modes are great for that. Texan PL368 or the County Con GP7 SSB, stuff like that. But it scans the international broadcast band. That's very important. Scanning the whole shortwave spectrum is not necessarily a good idea, because too many signals are just on or off types of signals. So, like single sideband, when you talk, there's something there. But if the scan goes through while we had that 1 second pause in your voice, it's not going to know that there was a signal there. So that's why scanning anything else than an AM type signal, which are international broadcast bands, doesn't really serve much of a purpose. Harold Anderson, nice to have you here. I'll be one NH from Oslo, Norway. Can you hear Scandinavian Weekend Radio? Which is on what, 6170 11720. Chris, see? Go up to chat, Master Players Radio. You're going to see it. Our friend Jan in Finland posted all the frequencies and times. James Bowers, nice to have you on board. KC1ENJ in New Hampshire. Tato Crisanto, nice to have you here from the Philippines. Stephen Wood, 9855, very good on Cape Cod, much better than BBC 11810 or 12095. You know what I wish? Now I know why BBC uses, its relay station, and it's technically, been using that forever. But I would love the BBC to have an African transmission in English on a decent frequency from Madagascar. In the summertime, that 9915 kilohertz frequency at 04 is blasting over here. And that comes from Madagascar. It'd be fun if they would use one of those frequencies in the 25-meter band in the daytime, but broadcast it from Madagascar instead. I'm sure that would blast to North America, and we'd have one hell of a good signal from the BBC in North America. John Ritson, nice to have you on board. Back into the hobby thanks to a house move. Far less interference. That is cool. 2E0JGR. And that will actually probably spark up listening more. I can just imagine, if I'd move from here to another place and have half the noise, I know I'd be listening 10 times more. I'd be all excited. Trustin, nice to have you on board from Newfoundland. And nice to have you back, my friend. Francis Moore, when you say end-fed, what does that mean? End-fed simply refers to the fact that the antenna, so at its basics, the antenna that I have is what we call a end-fed antenna. And the reason they call it end-fed is simply because it is connected to the end of the wire. So one of the extremities. So they call it an end fed for that reason. It's fed from one of the end of the wire. It's simple. It's as simple as that. because there are wires, like if it was centered, it could be, a center fed, it could be a dipole, it could be, that would mean that now it is, center fed would mean that there's a wire in two different directions and the connections are made in the middle. And fed means the connection is made in the extremities. So it's one of the ends of the wire where it connects to a unbalanced transformer, in my case, that matches the wire to the radio's 50 ohms input. Because in receive, it's not that much of a problem if there's a mismatch in the impedance. But when you transmit with a ham transceiver, you have to have the best match possible, because or else you're going to be wasting tons of energy and heat. And it can even, if there's too much mismatch, it can even damage the radio. So it simply means that it's connected to one of the ends of the wire. It's an end fed antenna or wire. Assad, last week purchased a Texan PL990 on your recommendation, using it and really happy. Thanks a ton. Cool. Well, have fun with it, man. It's a great little radio. Great little radio. For sure. Definitely, Robert Cross. Always fun to bring back radios to life. There was actually an article. I want to do something. I have to take the time, but I need to try to find the time to do it this week. There is one last remaining store that sells radios, mostly used radios, in Montreal, and it's called Radio Hovsep, Hovsep. So that radio, that store, which isn't that far away from here, actually, is pretty much the only place you can still today have an old radio being fixed. You can actually, if you're in Montreal area and you have an old tube receiver that you want to bring back to life, just bring it there. That guy is an old, the guy's been running that store forever. I don't know what age he is, but he's like an old 70 or, sorry for saying old, guys. I know he's not necessarily old, but anyways, you know what I mean. So that guy can repairs. He's got tons of tubes and everything, and he actually can repair old tube radios. So basically, I want to go there and ask the guy if I can, maybe ask him a few questions and make a video of the inside of the store, because it's not just a store, it's a museum of radio. And imagine the store of the guy that's kind of piles of radios and electronics and junk, and it's like all piled up. It's crazy. I went there a few times. I used to go there because I could purchase the Passport to World Band Radio was available from that place. So I'd go there to get that book. So what happens is that I want to ask the guy if I could, make a video and kind of put that on the channel so you guys could see it. It's really pretty much the last place ever in Montreal that apart from flea markets, last place ever that really is a radio store up front, and they have tons of old tube receivers there. I might be tempted in a radio if I go there, actually. I think I'm going to go this week. Now I tempted myself in maybe buying a tube shortwave radio, depending on the price. If the price are too high, crazy high, I'm going to forget it. But I don't know. It could be interesting. I don't know what I could see there, and what I could find. Yep, we get our clocks back 1 hour tonight, except in places like Arizona and what is it, Saskatchewan. There's a few places that don't, but for most of us, we are turning our clocks back tonight. Before I forget, I'm going to continue because there's an interesting question about amateur radio balloon by Mark that we're going to talk about tonight. Tonight, we're going to have a DX test with tones, Morse code IDs, and all sorts of whistles and whatever. It's from a station. So let me just bring it back. So the DX test that's happening later today or tonight, courtesy of the program committee, is at 12:01 a.m. Mountain Time. That's 0601 Universal Time. And tonight it's KSEN 1150 that will be doing its test. So Sunday, November 6th at 12:01 a.m. Mountain Time, 0601 UTC, KSEN 1150 a.m. will be testing on daytime power and pattern, 10,000 watts. Programming will consist of sweep tones, Morse code IDs, 1 kilohertz long duration tones. The test will last 2 hours and will until 2 a.m. Mountain Time. That's 08 UTC. So from 06 to 08 UTC from KSEN station, and KSEN 1150 is located in where is it located in? It's in Shelby. Trying to find the location here. It's in the Mountain Time, so it's more. Contact us. So it's in Shelby, Montana. So Shelby, Montana. And they'll be using their 10,000 watts daytime power. Once again, 1150 kilohertz, 06 to 08 UTC. I'll be actually staying up tonight to try that one. So Mark has a question. Are you able to explain what an amateur radio balloon does? What is the purpose? So basically what happens is that amateur radios operators will experiment with stuff. So there are, from time to time, we had one or two launches here in Quebec from the amateur radio club of I think it was Montreal Amateur Radio Club. So it's an experiment, first of all, but it's an experiment for testing an easy to deploy communication system. So technically what they do is they use those weather balloons. For those that don't know, there are tons of weather balloons that are being sent every day over North America. They contain instrumentation for the weather, so they can see the different layers of the atmosphere, the wind speeds, the direction, humidity. All of that data is helping in making weather forecasts. Now, they often will pair, and this is what they did with the experimentation here, is they asked the Environment Canada, they asked, well, we would like to have a payload on that balloon if it's possible. And they gave him the details of how much weight it can have, not more than that. And they gave permission to have an extra payload. So what happens with an amateur radio balloon? What it is, think about it as simply a repeater. So when we have 2 meters, 70 centimeter contacts on a amateur radio on the VHF, UHF range, to extend the range, we use repeaters. So like that, you talk into the repeater rebroadcasts that signal, and often the repeaters are on top of mountains or high buildings. So they actually rebroadcast in a much wider range. So you could technically use a little handheld and talk, 100 kilometers away, thanks to the fact that there's a repeater in the middle between you and another station. Something that you might not be able to do direct. The balloon is a repeater. What they do is they simply install a repeater on it. And because the balloon goes very, very high, so typically they will go to the 100,000 feet level, that height gives it such a coverage that you hear stations from really far away. And I remember the last time they did this here in southern Quebec. Man, I was having so much fun. I had just purchased my Pro 43 realistic Pro 43 scanner, and I came across a couple of weeks before. I came across an amateur net, and they talked about the balloon experiment, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" And of course, I was there that day to listen to that and the contacts being done through that. Man, I wish it would be happening today. That is something I would love as a amateur operator to participate, to make a contact through one of those balloons. And so the system is going up in a weather balloon, stays up for a few hours until the balloon will actually deflate and everything will start coming down. So I think it was up when they did it the last time. I think it was up for almost 3 hours before it actually stopped working. When it really dropped. Now, why do we do this? The purpose is to show, and this is one of the great ways to show the world we're not CB guys. And there's nothing wrong being a CBer, by the way. It's really because it shows that in a major problem, if there's some kind of hurricane, whatever, if you need coverage for a good coverage for radio communications, well, you could easily deploy one of those balloons. It takes minutes to deploy. As long as they're ready, it takes minutes to deploy. Gets up really fast, stays there for hours, and enables communications over a pretty good range of distance. So in times of emergencies, this could actually be a really, really cool way of helping out with radio communications where nothing works anymore. So hope that answers your question, Mark. What else do we have? Our dad listening to 27.54 USB mentions Guyana. There was French speaking with Haktung several times. And so, yeah, probably one of those outband CBers. So probably somebody trying to get attention from far away to get a contact or something. So, Uncle Justin, I would have killed to have a community like this in my 70s and 80s shortwave days. Yep, same here. I would love to have some Canada guy doing a live show. Because I would not have been, at 14, I would not have been the Canada guy that does the live show. That's for sure. I would have been the Canada guy that barely talks in the chat room. I'd be the little silence in the distance. And I know there's a lot of that happening when we look at it. A lot of people are, kind of text shy and camera shy, basically. Dan, nice to have you on board. And says the videos of the FTD extend are real cool, broadcast band, etc. Yeah, and there's gonna be more. There's gonna be more of it. I mean, it's such a cool, sexy radio. It's just amazing. Matt says it's funny anyone would feel that way about those transceivers because they all receive the entire HF spectrum. It's more of a waste not to listen outside the handbands than to transmit on them only. Matt says, I let my wife borrow my laptop for gaming, so I'm using my IC7100 to listen right now and not to hams. Tin can telephone. Honestly, when you get into it, ham bands are pretty boring. How could you not shortwave? Yeah, it depends what you want to do. I mean, when you're in the ham hobby and you want to try to, what I find fun personally is to try to contact faraway places. If I have a conversation in there, because let's face it, there's not a lot of conversations on the ham bands, except there's these rag chewers, these guys that know each other for a long time that do. But when you go into ham bands and you know no one, it doesn't happen often. You'll have actually a conversation, but you know what? From time to time, you do. That guy in Italy that I contacted a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that guy was not just a you're 5'9", I'm 5'9". It was, oh well, I got some family in Montreal and blah blah blah, and we spoke for like half an hour. And that was kind of fun. And it's like, well, that's more personal. I'm learning, a little more who you are, and you're looking forward to maybe seeing that guy again on the bands because you know that you'll have maybe another conversation. And actually, it was very friendly because every contact he would make, he was like, "Oh, hey, Larry, long time. Last time we talked on 15 meters. How are you? And how's your family? And blah blah blah." And it's like, oh, it's cool. This is friendly chat with people that he regularly encounters on the ham bands. I find that fun. The other part, if it's just a exchange of contacts, I'm okay with it. I like to do it. I like to do it for the sheer I have done and worked a station from that country to make my country count go higher and higher. Right now, I'm at 36 countries. 36 countries, and of 36 countries, I'm pretty sure half of them are just with my FTDX 10. So it gives you an idea that in the last 3 weeks to a month, I've made more countries than the whole year with my FT450. But I got to say, I'm having fun using it, so it's kind of cool. But the ham bands offers all sorts of things. It depends what you're looking for. Um, I get it. I got a because I was talking about a contest last week. We had the CQ Worldwide contest, and by the way, guys, I'm a good 20 minutes, 20 some minutes in behind in the chat. So hang in there. I'm gonna try to go a little faster. So basically, we there's all sorts of things you can do in a ham bands, and I get it that maybe you don't find it. It all depends what you're looking for. I was talking last week about how it's fun to go into the CQ Worldwide SSB contest as a listener because you can log as many countries that you never hear on the bands. That weekend, there's so many things. And I got one comment, actually an email from someone saying, I was listening to your live show, and I don't know if you can explain it in another way, but I don't get the fun of going in a handbands in that contest, and all I hear is, you know, call letters exchanged, and that's it. And I guess it all depends what you're looking for when you're listening to the radio. We all look for something different. Some of you are content people. You're looking for listening to a radio station that has something to offer to you in content. Um, what is maybe sad about it is the content listener might be the one that's heard the most by, having a hard time receiving a lot of stations with the noise floor, particularly. Um, if you're, but some of us are open to other stuff. I'm open to everything on the radio, pretty much. And for me, the fun is, well, I get a kick. I mean, I remember all these stations from the past where I would listen to Radio Norway, Radio Sweden, and so on. But I get a kick out of hearing a ham station from Sweden, for example. There's something fun about that. It's like, wow, hearing a ham guy from Sweden. I'm hearing Sweden. For me, the kick is receiving a radio signal from a distance, from a country. Not necessarily a country that has no transmissions on shortwave anymore, but just, different countries. Like There's a few that I've been trying to contact. There's that Russian The Expedition group. They were in Benin 2 weeks ago. I noticed this week they moved to Togo. They seem to be going to different African countries. Well, I find it fun, even if I can't contact them. I find it cool to listen. I find it fun that I'm hearing a station from an African country. It's kind of cool. But we all get our kicks differently. It depends what turns you on in radio. And that is where it's hard to explain because I think it's much more of a personal thing. What turns you on in radio than trying to convince you that you have to do it because it's cool. We're all different. Andy Coley, nice to have you here. Gareth Brennan, nice to have you here. Danny Shortwave reminds me of some Craigslist sellers selling a transceiver and they only want to sell it to another ham, not knowing if someone wants to use it just for listening. One thing that I thought they would do and they didn't ask. When I ordered my transceiver from Radio World in Toronto, they never verified if I was a ham or not. Unless they did, and I don't know, by my name and address. But they don't seem to have verified anything. They just sent me the radio. Gutterman says, first time here, really interesting. Licensed ham operator, have one of those Chinese radios you mentioned, have to a Ethon Elite, and loving that. Listened to New Zealand a few weeks ago. Cool. Welcome aboard, my friend. RGA Dakota says, my only pet peeve is that when a person goes out and buys a huge shortwave radio and parks it on one FM station for its lifetime. Yeah, I know what you're saying. When I was doing my tech jobs and I had this guy that had the Grundig Satellite 800 parked on the CBC FM forever. Oh, man. Francis Moore had a relapse show and bought an Elenco DJ X11. Have you got an opinion on this handheld? Not much. I almost owned one at one point in my life because I liked the idea of a wideband receiver. And but it never came through. And finally, the wideband receiver I got at some point was the ICOM ICR 20. And then the ICR 30 that was generously donated. But I heard good things about it, but I wouldn't be able to share an official opinion of is it that great a performer or not. I don't know. But I know that was a popular Alinco receiver. Ricky, my new work schedule allowed me to try for Pirates on a few nights this week. Able to catch a handful, including 2 transmitting in AM mode. So pretty cool. Driver Film Shortwave, what bands are you allowed on? Would be fun to have a QSO sometimes. Every band. My license, when you get here in Canada, when you pass your test, if you have less than 80% in your test, but above 60%, you are allowed to VHF, UHF only, and the I think the FM part of the 10-meter band. Sorry, guys. But if you get more than 80%, you are what's called basic with honors. All bands are open. So I can transmit on any band. Which makes it difficult sometimes to choose a frequency because I don't think about that. But you guys, like the guys in the US, they have a limit depending on the license they have. So when I chose, for example, when I did the special event station for CIDX, I chose 7165 or something, and I didn't know that a lot of hams in the US couldn't go there. So I was like, oh, okay, I don't have those restrictions. In Canada, we don't have those restrictions. So I had to, I moved up above 7200 in order to be able to to hear more U.S. Stations contacting me, but everywhere. I have no restrictions on what band to use. The only restrictions that I have are in the domain of the amount of power that I can use, and also the fact that because it's the first license, you're not allowed to have homemade equipment. You have to use commercial grade transceivers. Um, Gunnerman has a Yaesu FT60 handheld and two Kenwood probably mobiles and not Kenmore. I believe Kenmore. If you have a Kenmore in your mobile, that means you have some kind of fridge or a stove or something. It's probably Kenwood. You mean? For my ham gear here. I mean, I've been licensed since December of last year. It's going to be a year this December. I got a Yaesu FT65 as a handheld 2 meters 70 centimeter, and I have a Yaesu FT450, and now my new toy, a Yaesu FTDX10, which I love. Really cool. Matt says, "Oh, that is a nice feature recording on the FTDX10. If I want to record on my IC7100, I have to connect it via USB and use Audacity." What else do we have? Ricky, am I correct in guessing a lot of pirates are based on the east side of North America? I don't seem to hear the same quantity of stations. I think you are right in assuming that is a possibility. Definitely, there seems to be a higher number of pirates on the east side than on the west side. Definitely. I even suspect that several pirates are broadcast from the same place. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Gareth Brennan, can you record with an SDR? Yes, absolutely. You can record audio, and you can even record video if you want. I use OBS Studio and record the whole thing, not just the audio, but the video side of it. So you could see it as well as listen to it if you want. But you can also, with an SDR, you can just record and save it as an MP3 file. Paul Palinka's majority of U.S. pirates are on the East Coast. It's always been like that. Yeah, pretty much. What else? Let's go down. Philip, the ICR 8600 also has a record to SD card. Very useful. Yep. Very, very cool. NDK2, it's a shame because there were some good Western pirates for a while, but the only one I know still around is a religious pirate who's not part of the normal pirate scene. I guess it goes maybe with, there's like the northeast part of the United States is much more populated than the west side. So I guess maybe it simply goes with the fact that there's a lot more chances a pirate might pop up in a highly populated area. I would guess, but I'm surprised there's no pirates coming out of California or something. It'd be kind of interesting. All right, JDA Dakota, when I do ETM scans on my PL330, it does sometimes stop for AMers in the 75 meter band, and some SSB on the 40. Yeah, it can definitely. I like when it stops on AMers in the 75 meter band. It's kind of cool. So trying to go down as fast as I can to go a little faster here. Francesco, nice to have you on board. IU5A OAV from Italy. Yep, 7295, 7290. There's some AMers there. How do you know what radio balun is needed and if you need one for receiving only? Usually in receiving, most of the antennas will use a balun, which is a balanced to unbalanced, because a wire, if you use a wire, it depends on the antenna. First of all, the entire balun thing depends on what type of antenna you're using. Okay. And if you use a wire antenna, often you'll use a balun, which is a balanced to unbalanced. The wire is unbalanced, and it will balance it to the receiver. But you got to be careful here because the complexity of this is multiple. If your radio has a what's called high Z input for the antenna, then you don't really need a balun because it's meant for the high impedance of wires. So it's kind of matched without needing anything in between. Where you might need a balun is if you're using, for example, a my ICOM ICRD 500 or my Kenwood 5000 receivers. They use 50 ohms. Well, they do have the Kenwood does have a high Z antenna input, I believe, but the main connector for the antenna is a 50 ohm connector, which is very standard in receivers and transceivers. Now, because that is 50 ohm and the wire antenna is probably hundreds of ohms, depending on what it is, then you might need a balun. The thing here is a mismatch. I've never used a balun until very recently, and had great DX. When you receive, the mismatch is, yeah, if you match, you might get a little more signal. Yeah, it technically it should, because you match, you don't have loss. But that said, in receive, it ain't that important, honestly. It really ain't that important. So even if you don't have a balun, you probably don't miss out on much. Now, some people, when they have a balun and there's, they ground it and everything, seem to say that you kind of remove some noise. And I don't know, it's difficult to talk about these subjects because everything is different depending on your location, your type of noise, how you're set up. It's such a complex issue that everybody's kind of different in that, in that side. But honestly, you'll have great DX and great signals without a balun. It's not necessary for the receive part. For the transmit part, that's another story. For my FTDX10, my V-shaped antenna has to have, in my case, it's an unbalanced, and it matches to the 50 ohms, roughly to the 50 ohms input of the transceiver. Gabriel, nice to have you on board from Uruguay. Hope you are well, my friend. When's the next Moody expedition? Anything planned soon? Harold Anderson, maybe you should do some live streams at YouTube when you do high frequencies on different bands so we can have a chat. Yeah, you know what? That's going to happen on the VE2 Zulu India channel that I have. If you guys want to go and check it out, simply go to youtube.com/at VE2ZZI, Victor Echo 2 Zulu India. You'll be on my other channel, which is a ham channel. I've been preparing because I'm in the kitchen. I don't want to show my kitchen. I find it kind of not cool to be in, having like a ham transceiver and seeing bananas and oranges and whatever. So I'm actually creating with cardboard, creating a background that I'll put that kind of imitates wood. So when you'll see me, it's like I'll be in a wooden shack, but in reality, I'll be in my kitchen. And so visually, it's be more appealing and more professional. And I plan to actually do some live broadcasts of me making contacts. And you guys could see me make contacts if you want. And I also plan to make a lot of videos of, showing people how to properly operate on the bands. I'm going to make a full video instruction manual of the Yaesu FTDX10, also the FT450, and even the FT65. These things are complex, and I think there's a need for, it's not because you're a ham, you understand your radio. These radios today are very, very complicated. When somebody tells me, well, you're a ham, you must understand your radio and blah, blah. No, that's two things. Being a ham is the technical side of understanding how to operate and how to understand some basics of electronics and stuff. when you get in front of a FTDX10, you're like, whoa, okay, that's a computerized, it's a computer transceiving. It's very, very complex. And no, it's not true that because you have a ham license, you have to be born understanding those radios. You will be born understanding the basics of the radios, not necessarily how they work and all the menus that are in it. So I want to try to change and make that channel of a part of a. I want to do what I do here. I don't want to be the expert guy in the other channel. I want to be the guy that's down to earth, that explains down to earth to every ham out there what it is, and not be, a fancy high-end ham that will take out this, big radio vocabulary and make you feel small. I want to have that channel feel as friendly and as, the basics are in there as this is to help hams also. So that's coming up. I just have to set up properly to be able to make videos there. But definitely there's going to be something. Let's see here. Matt says KSEN 1150 broadcast sounds interesting. Also, they look like an oldie station. Curtis Gump says heard the KJJR 880 test. Cool on your Sony ICF 2010. Nice. BLF Radio. Look at the description about of this video about faulty Sanji and ATS 909X2. Okay, I'm gonna check that out. A lot of people complaining of things on the 909X2. It's sad. Gareth Brennan, I managed to pick up an FM station over 120 miles away. Is this considered DX? On my R108 using the whip antenna. You know what? What DX means is very different from one person to the other. And remember that it just means long distance. So, it's 100 miles away. It's long distance. And for FM, it's actually pretty good. So I would consider DX, honestly. And that might actually, what DX means to you, I think changes over time with what you listen to. As you get more and more stuff and maybe even more signals even further away, your personal DX, what DX is, sometimes becomes a little more, a little more complex. And but you know what? It's 120 miles away on the R108 is great. Spacebar, I'm surprised they won't be using WSPR Whisper being so close to the ionosphere. Joseph actually likes scanning the bands for sporadic non-broadcast stations, for instance, random unscheduled broadcasts, mystery broadcasts. So actually, what I don't like about ETM is that, yeah, if you're searching for something else, yeah, I understand. That's, you know what, Joseph? That's why I like an SDR, because you see it visually. V3JPX says 10, 11 meters on fire today. Chris Alpha Tango, nice to have you here. Always busy, but love that I got a chance to say hello live. Well, it's nice to have you here, my friend. Really nice to have you here. Jim Gordon. I remember DX programs like Sweden Calling the Xers, Media Network, DX Jukebox, which were forerunners of programs like yours. Yeah, they were the radio equivalent, basically. Chris Alpha Tango, I'm not into 5.9 QSOs. That's why I left 10 and 11. That's perfect. That's, it's like I say, we each have our thing that we like, Prasad, nice to have you on board in India. 2:40 a.m. over there. Wow, nice to have you on board. Been a long time, my friend. Hope you are well. Hope everything's all right there. Francis Moore, the 1150 kilohertz is 06 UTC. 06 to 08 UTC. Tristan, would the external AM antenna for the PL3 work with the PL330? Might be interesting to try. I don't know. I don't. It's not. Well, yeah, I don't know. How's out Crafter's Kitchen? You should get a tube radio at your local shop. Better than eBay. No shipping. I have 3 of them restored, so I know I'm spoiled. But tuning them is like driving a fine vintage car. I'm afraid to go there because I'll come back with a radio. I don't know why I got this craze. Carol W7WXV, nice to have you here from Central Oregon. Long 2112, nice to have you here from Nassau Bay, Texas. Long 2112 has Navtex on 12.584.5. V83 JPX, not illegal to own a ham transceiver. It's illegal to transmit. Yeah, I know that, but there used to be a time when ham radio stores would not want to sell to people that didn't have a license. So I was wondering if they'd do that today. But you know what? When I got a radio, I figured, well, with the amount they sell, they probably just want to, we got one here. Just ship it. We don't care. Just ship the radio. Yeah, VOA on 11720 from Greenville, North Carolina. Jim Gordon, a recent episode of the intellectual series Walking Dead featured a Panasonic RF2200 as part of the equipment to survive zombies. So you will survive zombies. Oh, Carol, general class license here in the States restricts us to 7185 and up. Yeah, that's the thing. Matt says 7175, so somewhere over there. Yeah. Jim, nice to have you here from Rhode Island. Yeah, you guys in the UK, because you guys have that starting from 7200, you guys have the an international broadcast band at 7200 and above. And once again, when I hear that, I'm always kind of, yeah, right. You always have one US ham from time to time that will go on 7240 or whatever, and then an international broadcast pops up and they go nuts. And I'm sorry, but a ham operator should know that there's a international broadcast band for the rest of the world on 7200 kilohertz and up. But it's like that. Okay, going down a little faster, guys. If I miss a question or I miss saying hello, do say hello again. Chris Alpha Tango about to get the Yaesu FTDX 101D. Cool. I just got the Yaesu FTDX 10 and I'm so happy. So happy. Matt says pirate radio in general seems to be a bigger thing back east. You hear all about all the FM pirates in New York City. Yeah. It's like here in Montreal. I never heard of pirates in the FM band in Montreal ever. Matt says, yeah, one thing that was nice about the Satellite 750 was my primary receiver is that it had a high impedance input. You can connect a random wire directly. Great for beginning shortwave listeners. Call Icon WRMI playing classic rock 15770. Glenn, does the Icom R75 work well on a long wire antenna? It should. I don't see why it shouldn't, but it really should. Joseph, Navtex, DSC safety testing 12577. Cool. Mr. Squirrel, nice to have you here from upstate New York. K5 GLH, my call sign Victor Echo 2 Zulu India. Yeah, you do. You can take a phone number anywhere these days, definitely. Darren Rogers, nice to have you here. Jim Gordon. What do we have? What do we have? Yep, that radio, that radio jargon, that radio, um, you know, um, conversation can definitely confuse new hams when you're not used to the different wording and the different, you know. Daniel Mark LeBlanc, nice to have you here from the Shediac River, New Brunswick. Nice to be here. Nice to see you. Levi Nathan from Israel. Nice to have you on board. Thank you for the congrats for the Yesu. Jim Gordon, seemingly Sanjin has admitted that there are shortcomings on the 909X2. So get a PLS 880 or XH Data D808. Yeah. Glenn just got an ICOM R75 and going to set up a long wire soon here in Florida. We have tropical storms warnings this coming week, so I'm going to wait until it blows before to set it 100 feet of wire. Jetcrafter, nice to have you on board from Southern Maine. Kevin, are you hearing anything from SPDX of an iOS compatible SDR in the near future? Yeah, yeah. The iOS compatibility is impossible because of Apple's way of blocking access to the internals, the kernel of the software. I don't think you'll ever have a working SDR on an iPhone or on an iPad, unfortunately. That's why I went Android all the time, because it's the only system that can be, Android. I always say Android is the Windows of the mobile systems. It is so flexible. And so that's why I use that, because the iOS problem is really in the way that Apple restricts access to the core system. And because of that, they just can't have an SDR. If the iPads and iPhones could run a SDR, they would have already done it, because they know that there's so much. I mean, the iPads, there's a lot of iPads out there. There's more Android tablets sold overall, but for one brand, the iPads are dominant. The iPads are the biggest sellers of tablets for Apple, and for tablets anyways. And I think it has like 30% of the market, which is huge for just one company. But unfortunately, those blocks are preventing some of the cool stuff that you could do with it. And it is sad. It's really, really the block that Apple puts on its own software that prevents the companies from making anything. So that's why like it's like a browser. If you have Chrome on your iPad, you're kind of not really having Chrome. You're kind of having a disguised Safari, basically, because they can't go to the point of really having a full blown capable browser that has its own core. Francis, brilliant idea, Joe, like you did for the ICR 8500 a decade ago. I learned such from a lot of those, enabled me to use my set efficiently. Um, and, I know I'm going to have to do more. I'm going to have to do more of all of these for sure. So let's try to go down a little more. Where do we are? Where are we? Where are we? Radio Free Whatever now live on 6955. Let's check that out. How good is it here? 6955. Pretty good. Pretty good signal here. And let me do it on the. I'm going to do this on the little ATS 25 here. So I'm going to punch in key 6955 mode upper sideband. Now I just got to match the audio. With music, it's terribly difficult to find a proper tone for single sideband. There you go. I think this matches pretty much. So there's some music. So this is on the ATS 25. It's a little off, but that is kind of stuff to. That's what I like about a receiver that's accurate already. Not that much. Not that much. Going crazy of trying to tune the songs. RJ Dakota, I love my newer radios, but that's why I definitely like to play with an older analog radio because I can go through entire bands without the thumping DSP mess. Yeah. Well, that's where, yeah, that's why I use, the Texan PL 990 or 501 so that they don't have the muting and all of that. Kevin says, know that ham radio outlet will not sell a transceiver without providing a call sign which matches your address. So, unless they verified, because I mean, with my address, if they go to the database in Ottawa, they'll see that I am a ham. Maybe they did verify it without my knowledge. They just punched it in and said, yeah, he's a ham. Send a radio. Because for a long time, I was hearing a lot of stories of, well, ham, the radio stores don't sell to non-hams at transceiver. And yeah, it's not because it's not illegal. It's just, I think, to maintain the hobby in a good state, not having anyone have a transceiver and not knowing what they do with it. Richard, nice to have you here. WA2157 SWL, Albany, New York. And always like the mystery of tuning the unknown. Definitely. Francis Moore knows the craze. I may have to get an extension built or get another shed. Girl Icon has the Boston Weather Facts 9108.10. Nope, I don't, Carol. I don't have it yet on digital modes. I've had it for only 3 weeks now, so I haven't set anything up yet for that. But I will probably be doing that from now till Christmas. It'll be set up at some point for digital modes and all of that. For now, I'm just still in the making ham contacts with by voice and stuff like that. Anything else here? What else do we have here? Ricky, can you hear someone from Texas just outside the CB band? Daniel, Mark LeBlanc, love your recent videos on your new antenna. Looks like the weather is great in Montreal. Oh, yeah, man, it's summer today. Actually, I have this big lighting system here, and it is really hot in the room. It's in my room here, because it's hot outside. It's 27 Celsius. So it's like I'm getting close to 80 Fahrenheit in here. We're November 5th, and I'm not, the electric heating is off everywhere in the house. Brian Penny, nice to have you here from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Glenn says Apple, more security, suave than with all the items they put out, but they even use that as one of their saying because how good their security. Yeah, it's by putting you in a jail, it prevents you from getting the viruses from outside because you have to go through the store to get stuff. But even then, unfortunately, there is one major issue, and I'm pretty sure a lot of iPad users would love to use their SDRs on an iPad. And it's plenty powerful for that. That's the sad part of it. Kevin, I own an old ICR6, just plugged it into my MLA30 and it came to life. Wow. As a standalone, it is worthless and deaf. Looks like I have some playing to do. That's the discovery of stuff. Having a radio that's been hanging around and doing nothing for a while. And suddenly you plug it in or find an idea of, I should plug this antenna on it. And then you're like, oh, look at that. That radio's back to life now again. So it's kind of cool. So once again, just want to remind everybody that there will be a DX test from KSEN 1150 kilohertz medium wave tonight. I will be listening. It's 06 to 08 UTC, and the station is in Montana, Shelby, Montana. And they will be playing programming that consists of sweep tones, Morse code IDs, 1 kilohertz long duration tones, and the test will last 2 hours. So that could be a nice test to check out the medium wave bands. I'm going to try with different radios tonight. One question that I had that I want to answer, because I've had a few people kind of not understanding, I think, what the MLA30 is. Somebody asked, well, I got an email, but I got another email, not another email. I got a comment that I've seen where somebody's asking if you can use on an MLA30 a antenna tuner. And no, because an antenna tuner to work, an antenna tuner needs to tune the antenna itself. When you're on an MLA30, the antenna tuner doesn't work, because what you're getting out of the cable, the signal, is an amplified signal from the amplifier of the antenna. You can't tune that. You need to tune the antenna itself, not the output of the amplifier. So that's why an antenna tuner on an MLA30 does nothing. It will not serve a purpose, basically. Take care, Art. It was nice to have you on board. Stay safe, my friend. And take care, Spacebar. Always nice to have you here. So, anyways, yeah, it's kind of warm here. It is kind of warm. It's almost tropical here, Francis. So outdoors, it's still 21, 22. It's like in the 70s outdoor. Pretty crazy weather we're having for November 5th. But, as I was telling everybody, you got to be careful, because here in Montreal, it could be 70 degrees one day and you have a foot of snow 2 days later. That is something that can definitely happen here. But we've been having... we got a great October weather-wise, and we got some really, really amazing weather right now. I can tell you that. Darren Rogers receiving a broadcast on 6115. Yeah, that must be WWCR. WWCR is on 6155. A couple of things I noted, and I think you guys should keep an eye on that. Yeah, it's very strong here. WWCR is blasting here, 6115, sorry. Let me check another signal. I haven't checked in a long time. And yeah, seeing it. Well, I got a lot of interference there. Trying to see if I can hear Mally on 5995. So I've been hearing all sorts of things. So actually, it started a week and a half or 2 weeks ago when I noted on the HF Underground pirate site that there were some interval signals on 7,000 kilohertz lower sideband. And I tuned in, and it's very weak here, actually. It's barely audible, but the interval signals were very, very audible because interval signals are so easy to go through interference. So there's it seems that there's someone playing all sorts of things there, because I've been monitoring 7,000 kilohertz lower sideband, going there kind of regularly as I'm tuning the bands in general. and I've been getting interval signals. I got that a couple of days in a row. I got what sounded like number stations. Once was a number station that was in a language I have no idea. The other one was a number station in French. Once again, very weak. It's not very strong, but it's I can just understand what it is. So uh, check it out. It regularly pops up. And one night there was a Morse code playing there and said VVV from WLIS. And WLIS, those that have been listening to Pirates for a long time, is we love interval signals. It's an old pirate, so I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Two broke Tim. It would be hot if you had a fire going. Yeah, thank God I didn't start that. Hope you are well, my friend. Take care, driver film shortwave. Always nice to have you here. Ricky, someone in World Radio Group mentioned Mali has been missing for a week. So that would explain it, because I do have high interference, yet I do see a signal on 5995, so not sure. But I have interference, so I have a hard time making anything there right now. So I don't know if it could be Mali that's there on 5995 right now. I don't know if anybody can try 5995 to see what's there. Thank you, Francis, for the tip. Nice to have you on board, and thank you so much for supporting what I do. Mr. C's Garage, nice to have you here. And 73 Prasad, hope you are doing well, my friend. Stay safe. Have a good night there. It's late. Francis Moore, again, appreciate all you do to help me and others. Plus, it's good fun. Thank you so much. Glad to be here. It's always fun to be here. So, anything interesting about the B22 schedules? Because we are there now. One of the first things that was interesting is how fast EIBI space schedules popped up. Somebody said it's the first time I see that fast. It's not the first time for me. I've seen it a few times pop up really, really fast. But it is nice to have the schedules as fast as that, because boy, is it hard to kind of get a hang of what station is what I'm listening to right now when your schedules are outdated. I've seen tons of posts throughout the week of people, I think I hear this on that frequency. It's like, that doesn't sound like that. And remember that we're new schedules, and the website you just went to, I think, is not up to date yet. But now we're getting there. I saw that AOKey, which, by the way, had been, for some reason, they missed the A22. But now suddenly, apparently, I saw somebody post that the B22 AOKey from Japan list is up. EIBI space is updated. They update it actually every single day almost. Let me just check if the date has changed again, because they must be adjusting all the schedules. November 5th. They updated again today. So the schedules are even updated today. They've been updated every day this week. So it's nice because you know what you're listening to when you tune the bands. So remember that your favorite station is at maybe some other spot on the spectrum of frequencies now. RDB, all the best from Northern Ohio. Thank you. Nice to have you here, my friend. So it's nice to have the schedules up. Pretty cool. Ricky, why is it shortwave schedules changes seem to coincide with geomagnetic storms too? Was like that when I was a kid trying. There is actually an explanation for that. There is an explanation for that. Remember that the way that the sun and the earth is interacting changes through the year. Our geomagnetic field, the sun's magnetic field of lines that always interact with us in a way, make it that there are 2 times in the year where geomagnetic storms are easier to happen. And those are September, October ish, and March and April ish, exactly when the schedules change. So you're not wrong by having noted that it seems that it's worse at that time period, because there is it's easier for the solar wind to actually create geomagnetic storms in September, October, and March and April. It's a simple physics thing with our orbit and the geomagnetic field orientation as we move along the sun. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's an observation that we there are patterns and there are things. I'm good at those types of things. There's a pattern. Sometimes there are patterns of very long, um, you know, periods of times that we notice over years of radio listening and all of that. You got to observe. When you are a big radio listener like I was for a long time, and I can say, am I as passionate today and as much on the radio? I'm a lot on the radio. Am I as much on the radio as I was maybe like in 1985? I think I was probably more on the radio back then, but then again, I am a lot on the radio now, and I have to anyways because I do this. I'd be kind of not really serious if I talked about radio and I would not listen anymore. I turn on the radio all the time, and of course, when you buy new toys like the Yaesu FTDX10, you tend to turn on the radio all the time. You see patterns. You see patterns appear and show up in frequencies you listen to, and all sorts of things like that. And over time, you kind of notice, oh, it's interesting. There's always that happening in this time period, and there's always this happening in that time period, and there aren't patterns like that pop up and kind of jump up at some time, at some moment. Keegan DXer, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. Pretty cool to have you here. Ricky says, fascinating. Thanks, Jill. Would never guess. Yeah, that's more of my astronomy side that knows that. Because I do look at the solar activity, of course, a lot, but also I'm subscribed to the to Sky and Telescope, and I did a lot of observing when I was young of the sky, and I actually do some use my. It's very surprising. I use my my Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, and with the camera, even in the city, when I let it to do an exposure of like 3 or 4 seconds, the amount of stars that I could actually see through the light pollution is so amazing and so surprising. So sometimes I have fun, and while I'm doing some radio listening, I'll take some pictures of the night sky with the phone to see what stars I can pinpoint on a star map and so on. So all of that, my interest in astronomy and in radio kind of get in they get together at that point. The solar activity part is very important for radio, but also has something to do with my astronomy love. So it kind of joins there, and that's kind of cool, for that part. Jetcrafter Pirate on 6880. Let's check that out. Yeah. Here we're gonna tune it with the ATS 25. Let's check it out. So ATS 25. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go to 6880. There we go. So this is 6880 Pirate. I'm not gonna let the song play too long, but received really, really well on the ATS 25, as you can see here. It's plugged into the MLA 30 through my multi-coupler here. So took it out for a spin in the last few days. I had not used it in a while, and I had somebody talk about it last week, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to need to take it out again for sure. So 6880 upper sideband. There's a pirate on there, and very strong here too in Montreal. What else do we have? Hi, Deraldo Radios. Nice to have you here, my friend. Where are you located from? Nice to know where you are. Francis, have you ever picked up a transmission from the International Space Station? Yeah, several times. Several times. Over the years, I've heard the frequencies of the ISS itself. I heard the transmissions from the ham station on board, SSTV pictures that I've decoded, also from the ham station on board. I even tried because somebody said they were able to do it, and I wanted to try. When there was the last time there was the passes of the International Space Station, they have a repeater on board, which you can use when they're over your area. So when you know the ISS is passing overhead, they have a repeater that hams are making contacts on. And I actually took my little Yaesu FT65 portable, and I put it in split mode so I can operate the repeater for the ISS. And unfortunately, I never was able to join never make the contact itself. I tried 3 or 4 days in a row, but still, it was fun to even try, and it was really a lot of fun. Anyways, to hear the hams that were making their contacts on the International Space Station. I might be looking at that again and seeing what are the passes of the ISS over Montreal, and if they're at decent times, I might try to do another try the contact thing and see if I can contact the International Space Station, a repeater. It'd be fun, but it's really a lot of fun, actually. I did try. I mean, you can hear the ISS really easily with just a handheld scanner, by the way. The repeater on what is it? The repeater frequencies are what are? Yeah, let me just have a blank here. ISS repeater frequencies. Of course, you got to play with the IF shift. So the repeater frequency for the ISS is 437.800 megahertz downlink. So if you have a scanner radio, want to try to listen to the International Space Station, punch in 437.800 and make sure that you know when the ISS is passing over your city. And when it's passing over your city, you should hear, especially if you're outside, go outside is even better. You should hear the hams making contacts in the repeater. It's usually quite easy to. My FT65, just a little handheld and a little rubber duck antenna, was enough to receive it very, very well. But I never was able to make the contact though, which I would have loved for sure. So what else do we have here? RDB, my MLA 30 is about 10 feet from the back wall of my house. Would it be nice, more effective above the roof line? I have no near neighbor houses, just distant trees. I think what would be the best thing that you could try, and if you can find a way to do it, would be to move it, not necessarily move it above the roof line, although you can try it. But I would definitely move it away from the house as much as you can. I mean, 10 feet is not bad, but if you can put it further away than that, it might actually have even less noise that could be generated from your home. But try it. Moving it, if it depends how much noise you have where you are. But I would move it, if you can. I would move it further away from the house, as far as you can put it from the house. Glenn, how can you tell if a station is a pirate station? Um, so typically, pirate stations have their own specific bands, although it's not always true. How can you tell if it's a pirate? Well, in general, pirates are will have different types of programming that you want to hear on standard, regular international broadcast bands. So that's one thing. They'll, of course, ID with unique names. Um, Most pirates, 95% of pirates are in on specific bands that they're pirates. So, like 6,800 to 7,000 kilohertz. Everything that pops up there that has programs and music and whatever, it's pretty much a pirate radio station. Um, but there are pirates, like, for example, Mixed Radio International has popped up in the international broadcast bands. Where do you know it's a pirate? Then, if it doesn't show up on any schedules anywhere. Pirates are not, except for European pirates, which are a little unique. A lot of European pirates are 24-hour operations, but in general, especially in North America, pirates will not be a regular schedule thing. So you'll hear them one day, but you're not going to hear them the next day. Or if you hear them, you'll hear them maybe on another frequency. Your best way to identify, so like I said, they won't be in any schedules. So if you would go to, for example, Mixed Radio International once used 12100. Well, the BBC's on 12195, WWCR is on 12160. Yeah, you could technically think that it might be a broadcaster, but what gives it away is that they don't appear on any schedules. And when you start looking at the names, when they ID, well, you don't find them on regular schedules, but you will find them on one of the best sites for that. And to identify if you're listening to a pirate, really is um, hfunderground.com. hfunderground.com. And if you click at the top for North America, for example, you'll see a lot of people are monitoring for pirates. So you'll see them in there and you'll see the frequency. So if you suspect that maybe you're listening to a pirate, just go to that place and look. And often people will have already have a blog post or a post on, oh yeah, there's something on that frequency, and that's sometimes it'll be unID or no identifications for a little while. Then somebody will pop up with a name when they ID. And most pirates, a lot of them are in upper sideband in general, so that also gives them away. There's, apart from that station in Milton, Florida, that I haven't heard in a long time, WJCR, whatever. Um, they the most pirates are in upper sideband. There are some AM pirates, but there aren't that many of them. And they have unique broadcasts. They'll have all sorts of things can pop up. Comedy skits, music. Most pirates today are very heavy on music itself, and it's you see that it's very different from what you hear on a general international broadcast station, basically. Les, nice to have you here from the UK. Danny Shortwave was looking at the sky last night with National Geotelescope, looking at the moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, with my son outside in the backyard. Stellarium app is a great tool. Stellarium is an amazing tool, and it's cool because it's available on every platform too. You can have Stellarium on Linux, on Windows, on Mac, on an iPad, on an Android tablet. If you guys don't know about that app, Stellarium, it is a great app for viewing the sky and knowing what you can identify off of it. Yeah, Heavens Above, J Projects, definitely. Heavens Above app can notify for sats. So, for example, that's pretty cool. Make sure if your Heavens Above app is 2 minutes behind in the ISS J Projects, make sure that it updates its elements. The International Space Station is the only object that, in terms of radio satellites, that needs to be updated. The elements of the app need to be updated every single day because the ISS has corrections all the time to keep it in orbit. So they fire up the thrusters to push the station a little higher because the ISS actually falls down slowly. It's such in a low orbit that the drag with the what's left of the atmosphere makes it drop fast enough that they have to push it back up regularly. So that's why you need to make sure that your app updates the elements for tracking all the time, every single day. It's not as, if for the rest of the satellites, like the NOAA weather satellites, stuff like that, or even a lot of the ham satellites, it's not as important because those satellites are higher in orbit. So the drag and the changes are very slow. So even if your elements are out of date for 2, 3 weeks, you're still going to have a decent track. But if your elements are off for a week for the International Space Station, forget it. You won't have good readings. You got to make sure that it's up to date because I've not noticed personally any differences in using that app here. So maybe I should check it out again. Maybe I haven't noticed, but Paul, is 20 meters CW extremely active now? It almost looks spurious to me. Yeah, isn't there a CW contest this weekend? 14.050. I'm going to tell you right now. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Listen to that. That is CW. Yeah, there was an important CW contest this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. It depends on the type of antenna, Joseph. Height is important when you have antennas that are long, like a long wire or a beverage, you as high as possible from the ground because there's interaction happening. But it isn't that, I've had antennas of all sorts, and for listening, in general, it's not that bad. Francis Moore and my mom was able. I would take you to garden and watch it going over by using the tracking app. Amazing. Thanks for the info. I would go out with my nephews. I would do a lot of things, and when I was younger, and we would be amazed at just seeing when we had parties or anything. I'd take the app and just see, oh, the MLA 30 is is passing overhead, and we would look at it. It's just amazing. And imagine when you're listening to it, it adds another dimension. So if you're hearing the ham repeater on your handheld and seeing it go through, it's like there's an even more it's more even more magical of a moment. It's just crazy. I was actually with when I was trying to make contact last summer, the the couple that lives downstairs in the basement, they were having a little party and they were having a barbecue in the back. And so I kind of, crashed their barbecue a little bit, but not really. They were all excited because they never had heard of that before. So I came down with my little portable and my tablet with the ISS info and all of that, and started talking to them about how I was going to try to make a contact with a repeater on board the International Space Station, and they didn't even know that you could actually see it when it was coming through. So when it came through, I said, "Look, there it is," and they saw it moving really bright, and they said, "That's the International Space Station." Yep. And when I was making trying contact, he said, "So you're trying to talk to that?" It's like, "Yeah, definitely." And there was like, "This is so cool," and it's so funny because they had noticed that there were a lot of antennas on my balconies, but they never really asked what I was doing. And so the her husband looked at me and said, "Now I get it. Why you got all these antennas up there? You're doing a lot of stuff, of mysterious stuff like that, eh?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a lot of things with those antennas and receiving a lot of signals." But it was kind of cool. It was really really cool. How long of coax can you use with an MLA 30? Well, it has its own quite long coax already, but you can easily extend it because remember that what's coming out of that little box is from the amplification. It's the amplified signal. So even if you extended double the distance, it probably doesn't change or doesn't matter much. Anthony Friends, nice to have you here from Florida. Bill Smith, yeah, from time to time when they have time, they do send slow scan television. Um, Now, slow scan, I don't know what you're referring to, Bill, but if you're talking about pirates, some of them send slow scan television. And if you're talking about the International Space Station, sometimes there is also slow scan television from there too. So it comes from everywhere. So what else do we have? RJ Dakota says one part that seemed to have a regular schedule is Boss Smacker Radio, 6960 a.m. on Saturdays on 103. Yeah, it's possible that some can, but most of them don't in general because they don't want to get caught, but it's possible. Glenn, okay, cool. Thank you for that info and the website. I'm going to check that website out. Oh yeah, you'll see there's a lot of pirates out there and listen to them. You'll learn more also as to what they sound like. You'll have a better idea when I come across one actually. Darren Rogers, by the way, does anyone know who makes an adapter to convert a 1/8 inch mini plug to a headphone jack adapter for two Radio Shack speakers I have so I can bypass my external speaker jack on my ICOM IC735? 1/8 inch mini to headphone jack. If you're talking a 1/8 to 1/4, which is, I believe, the difference between the smaller and the bigger one, they're easy to find even on Amazon. I don't know if I'm just, yeah, Bill. N2YO is good for the International Space Station also, and any amateur satellite. That's actually also a good site. N2YO, definitely. Tony, nice to have you here from Ireland. We're in UTC time now. Hey, Joe, I received here the a rarely spotted PLL version of the Degen 1103 for $50. Not bad. A quirky radio, but so much fun to tune around. Cool. Cool. That sounds like a good deal there. Bonne soirée, Christian. Fais attention à toi. Et à la prochaine. Yeah, HF Underground is the best. Definitely. For pirates, it's just great. Daniel Mark LeBlanc says Stellarium is the number one astronomy software with most amateur astronomers, and it's free. You can also configure the software with your go-to telescope technology. Yep. Radio Hobbyist says conditions look great tonight. K2, that's nice. SolarFlex 118. What's on the menu tonight? That's the thing that I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm going to eat. No idea. And I want to try to avoid restaurants. I ate some McDonald's for lunch. So I kind of want to have some decent food tonight. But I have no idea. No idea what I'm going to make yet. Usually when I have no idea, I make pasta because it's easy and you can just use anything. I don't know. We're going to see. What else do we have? David in Barcelona, Spain. Nice to have you on board and better late than never. Yep. Yep. Yeah, Francis. Almost like 3D. It's kind of cool, David says the coolest ever is catching an air school contact while actually seeing the station, knowing that that astronaut you're hearing is speaking from that tiny dot. Yeah, I heard them once. I heard once they made contacts with station in northern New York and Vermont, and because that when it passes for that contact with the schools, I knew that it was visible also for Montreal. I listened that day. It was so cool to hear the. I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear the questions, but I could hear the answers that they were getting by the astronauts. It was so cool, so cool. Danielle says that many official star parties held in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia through the years, we often had ham radio operators set up and would actually have short discussion with the ISS. This is cool. Yeah, you got to. These are planned in advance. Absolutely. Ricky, about 10 years ago, was into homemade receive antennas for UHF TV. Temporarily put one on my balcony. My neighbors saw it and asked, "Can you get China with that?" V83JPX says a Subway salad. Oh, man. Michael made linguine. Jerry Jetzer, I hear air traffic on 5550 Upper Sideman sometimes and wonder where the air traffic control is located. Do you have any ideas? Usually they give their name. So listen to the name when they do their broadcast. They're always saying the name. So could be New York. So often you'll hear New York or Gander, or depending on where you live, because you can hear some on the West Coast. I'll give you a website to check it out. That you can see all the different HF air traffic control frequencies. Go here and let me just check the right one here. IVTC. Trying to find one that's decent. You can check it out here. I would guess hamuniverse.com. I think that's where do we have this? There was one that was what was the website? Can Air? Can Air. Just trying to get that back. That air traffic control. What's the website? I don't know if you guys can share. Man, I'm trying to. ADCHF. That's a guide, unless they changed. Unless they change. There was one site that had it all. I'm trying to find it and I don't find it. Aircraft frequencies. Well, this one's good. So here's one. So here you'll have the frequencies and the different stations around the world that you do transoceanic. But listen to their names. On those frequencies, you'll hear them say, for example, New York. Or they'll hear them say Gander or Shannon. When you hear these names repeated with every contact, you know that it's that airport. So, for example, if I listen to 5616, most of the time here, the air traffic, I'll hear, Gander. So it's Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. But that website will give you all the details, and all you have to do is listen in. And depending on where you live, you'll know which air traffic control station you're hearing. Um, what else do we have here? Francis Moore, I may have to drop out soon to duties. If so, I miss things. All the best and take care. Thank you so much for the tip, by the way, again. And thanks for being here always. Um, Ricky, you're all making me hungry. Yeah, I'm getting hungry too. It's like, I don't know. I want to avoid restaurants. Yeah, 5550 is New York, I believe. Yeah, you're right. I always hesitate on saying it because there's so many of them in my head that I'm sometimes miss up. Sunwave, enjoyed your Yaesu FTDX10 video. That radio sounded really good. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool radio, definitely. Um, Daniel says, I've been hearing a lot of new stuff these days that I wasn't hearing this summer and even last winter. I'm sure it has to do with the early night in the fall. That and one of the changes from a year ago. 1 year ago, we weren't as high in solar activity, and that also gives a boost to some of the frequencies we're listening to. 32 bits, Mike also from the UK, an FTDX10 user. We're checking out N4N HNH radio channel as he covers the radio in over 60 technical videos. Cool. Check that out. Thanks for the tip. Before I forget, if any of you into sports, Radio Marti has been doing live play-by-play of the World Series. Yeah, that's what I was hearing. You know what? It made me go back in time when the American, the air, what was it? American Forces Radio were playing baseball. We're playing baseball on their shortwave frequencies at the time. It's crazy. It's because I was listening to it. What was it? This week, one day, and I was like, actually, I was surprised. I was not expecting Radio Marti to have what sounded like sports, and I listened to it. And I was like, well, that sounds like a baseball game. And but it definitely brought me back to the U.S. Forces radio station that was often playing some baseball games back in the 80s. Yeah, American Forces Radio and TV Service. Thanks for the. I was searching the exact name, and back in the 80s, they were playing baseball games all the time. I remember that. So, hey guys, I've been on for 2 hours and 30. I'm going to say goodnight and try to see what I can cook myself to eat, and try to avoid to buy some restaurant food. Thanks for being here as usual, and we'll be checking out the DX test tonight once again. For those that don't know, 1150 kilohertz. There's going to be a DX test from Montana. So check it out from 06 to 08 UTC. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being great fans. It's always fun to be here, and it's really, really nice to have you guys along for the show. We'll be back next Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. In the meanwhile, expect to have a lot of videos popping up this week on the channel, so hope you enjoy those. And never hesitate in the comments to say, hey, I'd like to see a video of this, that radio, doing this, doing that. And if I can, I with pleasure make that video for you guys. Maybe it's time I make another video to ask everybody what they would like to see next. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and see you soon. Bye-bye.